New River has secured 2 planning permissions to redevelop the site over the last 7 years. The first in 2016 and the second in July 2021. The harsh reality is that the first of these applications was overtaken by changes in retail trading, such as the rise in online shopping and consequent changes in retailers' readiness to take space in town centres. Consequently, New River secured the second permission that was less reliant on retail and included more leisure and food beverage uses. However, it is clear that even this revised scheme is not commercially viable to deliver, with the leisure and hospitality industry still trying to recover from the pandemic. As a result, the Council sought to assist New River by seeking financial support from the government. In 2021 and 2022, we worked with New River and the County Council to submit bids to the Levelling Up Fund for financial support to help make the scheme viable. Unfortunately, on both occasions, the government declined to provide any assistance, despite the council being told that its bids were of high quality and fulfilled all the government's criteria. This lack of support from the government was very regrettable. It has left the council and New River with the difficult task of bringing a redevelopment forward without that essential injection of liquidity. Now, it's completely understandable that local people are extremely disappointed and frustrated by the current state of the town centre and the lack of progress on the redevelopment. I share these frustrations and that disappointment. Last year, we appointed a firm of highly professional advisors, Lambert Smith Hampton, to work with the council and New River to see how the redevelopment can be unlocked. The council has regular meetings with LSH to assess progress. Whilst some elements of the redevelopment scheme exist, these are complex and difficult negotiations involving a wide range of commercial players, and a successful conclusion of these negotiations still cannot be guaranteed. Given commercial confidentiality, it would not be appropriate to elaborate on these negotiations at this time. I wish I could give you a precise timeline on the redevelopment of the Martlet Shopping Centre, but I cannot at this stage. However, what I can say is that the current planning permission lapses in July 2024, and my personal expectation is that New River will have commenced practical work on the redevelopment of the Martlet Shopping Centre so that it doesn't lose this permission. Whether that will happen, I cannot currently predict with any certainty, but it is a horizon point that is being made very clear to New River and on which we are in turn focused. The council will obviously need to consider a range of options to bring the commercial redevelopment forward if it becomes clear that the horizon point I just mentioned cannot be met.
Okay, the second question is from Mr. Dawson. He cannot be present, so the question has been tabled, and that is on the screen. And the response from Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, and thank you for the question, Mr. Dawson. Our ambitions for Clare Hall are to provide a mixed-use cultural facility, and as we bring plans forward, we will engage with the community and aim to provide the broadest facilities possible, seeking to provide for all generations. Of course, any solution will also need to be financially viable and work within the constraints of the site. Thank you.
Okay. The third question is from Mr. Hardacre, who's present, so perhaps you could give us your question, please.
Thank you, Chairman. In the local elections, the Lib Dems pledged to reopen Clare Hall. Now they have formed the administration, please could the Cabinet Member for Finance with responsibility for Clare Hall confirm the latest date by which this will happen? Thank you.
Councillor Cook.
Hello, thank you for your question, Mr. Hardacre.
Pleasure.
We are committed to the long-term future of Clare Hall, and I will be providing a detailed update this evening. Please can I assure you that we are working very hard on options for Clare Hall that provide both pace, but crucially ensure the best long-term outcome. Thank you.
And you have a supplementary question?
I have, thank you. It's now almost 3 months since the local elections, so it is surprising to hear the administration is unclear about how it will fulfil its election pledges. Could the Cabinet Member at least confirm by when its policy review will be completed and published? Thank you.
Thank you.
And Cabinet Member reply in writing, yes?
I'll reply in writing, thank you. We're short of time this evening.
Okay, the fourth question is from Mr. Poshan. Could you read out your question, please?
Thank you, Chairman. My question is, the meanwhile use of Clare Hall by the NHS has been very positive for the local community. Can the Cabinet Member for Finance confirm that the Council will honour the licence agreement with the NHS in full and not terminate it prematurely?
Councillor Cook.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Poppin. We have a very positive relationship with the NHS and we are keen to continue to work with them in the longer term. In relation to Clare Hall, we are committed to making the best use of the building whilst we seek long-term solutions, and working with the NHS provides an excellent and economically viable interim solution for the community, and we have no intention of breaking any contractual agreements.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, I do, Chairman. Haywards Heath is my town, and it deserves a modern community, entertainment and arts venue that is fit for the future to replace the tired 50-year-old Clare Hall. Could the Cabinet Member confirm whether or not the administration is committed to providing a modern facility to the local community? Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. In light of the number of questions this evening, I'm going to take supplementary questions as needing a written answer. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, question from Mr. Bright. I'm going to wait for he's ready to give his. Okay, Mr. Bright, if you could read out your question, please.
Yes. In March 22, MSDC issued a second consultancy brief for investment plans to be prepared with the following requirements. The outputs required were the assessment of key financial and strategic and economic considerations. In October 22, the final report of BOP does not contain any of these detailed financial analysis of the refurbishment investment option called for in the MSDC brief. There is no detailed assessment of the key financial, strategic and economic considerations contained in the report in order to make investment decisions which were called for in the brief. will MSDC provide information on when the investment information will be available? And also, if it's true that £350,000 has been spent on consultancy fees, then I think the community should be informed of this and the reason why these investment plans have not been forthcoming. Thank you.
Councillor Cook.
Good evening, Mr. Bright. I'll have to answer the question as you set out
Yes.
originally.
Fine.
And if some of that is in your supplementary question, I can answer that in writing.
Thank you.
Thank you. In late 2022, further work was commissioned, which will report shortly, including options and viability of both refurbishment and redevelopment. Thank you.
Your supplementary.
Our question is based upon the preparation of two professional investment plans, redevelopment of the site or refurbishment of the site, showing in each case the timescales for the earliest possible opening of Clare Hall. Nearly 4 years has passed and to reach the stage that demonstrates a lack of willingness or ability by the council to bring the project to a stage of professional decision-making. And this is where I also raise the question of, is it true that £350,000 has been spent on consultancy fees? So our question is, can an individual be identified and urgently nominated for the leadership of this particular project who has not been associated with the previous regime? And can HHTC, Town Council, be made responsible for the site? And just as an added point, there is disquiet about the accuracy of the BOP report on local provision for arts and culture. They declare that Mid-Sussex is well provided within 30 minutes of these facilities. And this brings the whole question of their report into question. Thank you very much indeed for listening to me. I really appreciate it. And I do hope that there will be some action taken, because 4 years to deprive the community of this facility is actually maladministration and almost a crime. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Councillor Cook, I understand that we will give a written answer to your questions.
Yes, Mr. Bright, we will prepare a written answer to your questions, but...
Could it be devoid of any platitudes, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now move on to the next item on the agenda, is the affirmation of the minutes, and that will be Kevin Toogood will introduce this.
Thank you, Chairman. So just to confirm, as this is the first meeting of the new council, I have reviewed the minutes of the last meeting of the previous council and I attended that meeting. I can confirm that those minutes are an accurate record.
Right, do we verbally agree? Agree. Right, thank you. If we now move to item 4 on the agenda, to receive declarations of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. If the members can indicate on their mics. Robert.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to declare an interest on, I'm a director of Burgess Hill Community Partnership, CIC, which has a tenancy on the Martlet Shopping Centre. I've obviously answered a question on the subject already, and I will refer to the Martlet Shopping Centre in my leader's report.
Right, thank you. Any others? No? Right. So we move on to the next item on the agenda, to consider any items of urgent business. I've received none. So we move to item 6 on the agenda, Chairman's announcements. I've been involved in quite a lot of engagements. The details of past and recent engagements you'll find on the website, but I will say just a few words about some of those things. I visited the Lord Lieutenant, Lady Emma Barnard. Now, I am, as chairman of the council, the civic first person in mid-Sussex, but if King Charles II visits, or any member of the royal family, on a visit, on official visit, or if the Lord Lieutenant is representing the King Charles, then, of course, they take precedence. Secondly, I went to a military briefing at the Reserves Training Centre in Crawley. We had an outline of the deployment of the military, the Army, Navy and Air Force. They seem quite well stretched, and also they're providing important training facilities both to our own servicemen and also servicemen from Ukraine. I entered the South of England show, both at the President's reception and the sponsors' lunch. Very important, the rural economy in Sussex, or the South East in particular. Lots of businesses, farms, and those who process the products of the farms, the rural crafts, and also rural pastimes. Very important in mid-Sussex, we have Hickstead, which is the international centre for show jumping. We attended the Coro Nuovo choral concert. That again was a charming evening, listening to vocal songs from the last few centuries. Very entertaining evening, and also the final of the Sussex Young Musician of the Year. We heard them play, and the violinist was the winner of that. We also attended the Bishop's Garden Party in Chichester, where chairman or vice chairman or leaders of the county, East and West Sussex County Council were present, chairman and mayors of district and boroughs, and town council mayors. And we were all thanked for the work we all do to help our residents to the better life. So, see, I've been quite busy over the last month. Finally, for my announcement, I will announce that I have selected for my charity a charity called Winston's Wish, which is a charity which is set up to help support children who have suffered bereavement for the loss of a parent or sibling. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is item 7, is the district plan review, recommendations from scrutiny, proposed by Councillor Rickleston.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Members will see in paragraphs 12 and 13 that the Scrutiny Committee has already commenced work on reviewing the non-housing and housing policies in the district plan, as well as setting out a timetable for engagement with town and parish councils in August and September. So this is a case of the work programme running slightly ahead of the recommendation in this report, and that's just a timing issue. We all know that plan making is difficult and controversial. Building bridges of confidence with town and parish councils is essential and will help us take on board their concerns around the necessary infrastructure needed to support the delivery of the district plan. I move this recommendation and look forward to a seconder.
Okay, so to second that, John Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman. I reserve my right to speak at the end of the debate. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Anybody else want to speak on this issue? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. The ward that I represent has 3 parishes. All of them have a part-time clerk, and of course the clerks normally take August off. So I just wanted to ask and ensure that, ask how, if the discussions with the parishes are going to take place, how that will, how that's going to be executed. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? Councillor Eggleston.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Just to come back, I'm hoping they're not taking August and September off, because the engagement will take place over the months of August and September.
Okay. So there's no more questions from the floor. The recommendation which we're to vote on is on page 19 of the agenda papers. Councillor is recommended to agree to positively engage with town.
Councillor Belsey wants to.
Oh, sorry, I've forgotten your right to reply, yes.
Well, it's not right to reply. I'm obviously seconding the motion, but very happy to second it, and I'm sure it's in all of our interests for a strong relationships between Mid Sussex District Council and our parishes and town councils. So very happy to support this motion. Thank you.
Okay. I've not missed anybody else. Okay, so we can move to the recommendations on page 19. Council is recommended to agree or positively engage with town and parish councils prior to the Regulation 19 consultation. We all need to vote on this matter. Okay, the vote is now closed. The result is 43 in favour. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're now to move to representation on outside bodies. So to pose that is Councillor Eggleston.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate that there's one change to the nominees, and we have 3 contests. I'd like to move the nominations as a block. I appreciate the input from the various groups on the council as we tried to get people into the right slots, and we've all tried to accommodate each other as far as we possibly could to get a balance. So I'd like to move these recommendations and then hand over to you, Chair, and Mr. Toogood to deal with the 3 contests and the 1 change. Thank you.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Bennett.
Yes, I'm happy to second it.
Okay. I'll hand over to Kevin to deal with the contested positions.
Thank you, Chair. So we've got 3 contested appointments, and I'm going to deal with these by way of show of hands for each candidate. So what I'm going to do is read out the name of the body, the first candidate. I'd like you to all indicate if you're in favour of that candidate. Terry and I are going to do a quick count up just to make sure we've got the right number, and then we'll move on to the next candidate. So on my papers, I've got 3 sets of those to do. So starting with number 14, which is the Friends of Ashenground and Bolnor Wood Steering Committee. Could those in favour of Councillor Richard Bates please indicate? Thank you. And those in favour of Councillor Sandy Ellis, please indicate now. Thank you. So that is 26 votes in favour of Councillor Richard Bates, 16 votes in favour of Councillor Sandy Ellis, so Councillor Richard Bates is appointed. Moving on to item 16, Gatwick Airport Consultative Committee, Councillors Matthew Cornish and Councillor Julie Mockford. First, those in favour of Councillor Matthew Cornish, please indicate. And those in favour of Councillor Julie Mockford, please indicate. Thank you, everybody. That is 17 votes in favour of Councillor Matthew Cornish, 23 votes in favour of Councillor Julie Mockford, so Councillor Julie Mockford is appointed. Moving on to item 21, I understand Councillor Edwards may wish to say something.
Thank you. Yes, I would just like to tell Council that I've decided to withdraw from that position, so it's now uncontested. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. So in that case, item 21, the High Weald Joint Advisory Committee is no longer contested. The proposed nomination is Councillor Lorraine Carvalho.
Okay, thank you. That now moves over to me to ask members to vote on the non-contested appointments en bloc via their touchscreens for the recommendations listed on page 23 of your agenda paper. Right, have we all voted? Okay, so the vote is now closed. I have the vote of 42 again, for and 1 against. Okay, so
It's agreed.
it's agreed. Okay, we now move on to item 9 on the agenda, the review of members' allowances for 2023-24, proposed by Councillor Eggleston.
Thank you, Chairman. This report was completed towards the end of the last council term and considered by members at the council meeting on the 7th of December 2022. At the 7th of December meeting, we agreed to reconsider the scheme for members' allowances after a decision had been made on the Constitution review, which has taken place. We also agreed that the overall budget for members' allowances should not increase at the current time. The recommendations in the independent report before us this evening are identical to those made in December. They now can be considered following the constitutional changes. In line with the position we agreed in December, I recommend acceptance of these recommendations. I would ask members to note that with the changes to the number of councillors, the committee structure and slimmed down cabinet, the overall budget for members' allowances is £21,000 lower each year. Thank you.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Cook.
Thank you. I'm happy to second that.
Are there any questions from members? Paul Brown, Councillor Brown.
Thank you very much. I welcome the work and thank the committee for coming up with the recommendations. I think that the members' allowances are too low. I estimated my spending last year as about 800 hours on Mid-Sussex District Council business, which means that the allowance works out much less than the minimum wage. Carers is £11 an hour or something like that. I made these comments to the committee in the context of the previous council, because the previous council was made mainly with superannuated members like myself. And I must say I'm pleased to see some younger people in this council now. But nevertheless, in our political group, we have people on minimum wages, and they're reluctant to stand for council because of the fact that there are meetings during the day, and they end up having a net loss in income and are already in a difficult position with their income. So, I recognise that we're not a lot different from other councils in terms of members' allowance, but I think now's the time to make that point to the council. Thank you very much.
Okay. Are there any more questions? Councillor Eaves.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'd like to thank the Cabinet for putting forward this proposal. We've lost 7 months by having to defer it from last December, which is a shame. I too believe that councillor pay is on the low side. My calculations are that even leaving aside casework, I probably get about £9 an hour for district and £3.50 an hour for town. Not that that's relevant today, but anyway. If we don't agree now on this increase, then when would we build it in? If there is no increase now, then the envelope goes down, the next pay rise will not make up for it, and we will have fallen behind. And this is a recommendation by independent consultants, so I think we should not ignore their findings. Thank you.
Okay, there are no more questions. I go back to the proposer, Councillor Eggleston.
Thank you, Chairman. I have nothing to add.
Okay. Okay, we now go to the vote. Oh, seconder.
Yes, I'm happy to second that.
Okay, but we'll now go to the vote. Okay, I've now closed the vote, and the result of the vote is 31 votes for, 3 against, and 9 abstentions. So the motion is carried. Okay, we now move to item 10, to receive the Leaders' Report, Councillor Eggleston.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a good exercise, this. First couple of months has seen an intensive amount of induction training and briefings for the Cabinet and members. I've seen at first hand the long hours that the officer teams have put in alongside their existing workloads to help Cabinet and members acquaint themselves with policy and their duties. So I'd like to start by publicly thanking our officer team for the hard work, their patience and their good humour to us over the past 2 months. Whilst we're in the early days of this new council, can I say that I welcome the spirit of cooperation that is evident across the chamber. To continue in that spirit, I have arranged quarterly meetings with the leaders of the Conservative Party, the Greens, the Independent Group, and Councillors Paul Kenny and Peter Chapman, so we may discuss issues we face as a district in an informal and collaborative way. The first of these meetings takes place tomorrow. I will do all I can to make collaboration across the chamber a feature of the council over the next 4 years. Turning to my report, and regarding Gatwick Airport, since my email on the 5th of July, I'd like to give the following update. Gatwick Airport submitted its development consent order application to the Planning Inspectorate on the 6th of July, the following day. The Planning Inspectorate now has 28 days to decide if the pre-application consultation undertaken by Gatwick Airport has been adequate, and the surrounding local authorities have been asked for their views on this. the joint local authorities have responded to the Planning Inspectorate, making a strong case that the consultation has not been adequate and local authorities have not had sufficient information to understand the impacts of the airport expansion on their local communities. We have also submitted a response setting out specific examples which evidence where Gatwick Airport has not responded to our consultation response. MPs covering the area affected have supported the local authorities in their concerns and have made representations to Gatwick Airport accordingly. Whilst the local authorities have put together a strong case, our retained King's Counsel has advised that the test that the applicant has to meet is easy and few DCO applications fail at this stage. Planning Inspectorate will issue their decision on whether the DCO can go ahead on the 3rd of August. If the application is accepted by the Planning Inspectorate, the examination phase will begin and the Council will prepare its formal representations. If accepted by the Planning Inspectorate, Gatwick Airport can start the pre-examination period at any time, during which time the Council will submit its initial views on the proposal to the examining authority. It is intended that a Council workshop will be held in mid-September to update councillors. On to the district plan. The district plan working party met last week and will, over the coming days, feed in further comments as part of the review process. Later this summer, officers will engage with those town and parish councils that will be impacted by the draft district plan, with the aim of listening to them about their infrastructure needs for their communities within and outside any development site, and where possible, make adjustments to the infrastructure requirements in the plan. This additional work will hopefully leave us in a position to still bring the draft district plan to Scrutiny Committee, Place and Environment in the autumn this year, in readiness for Regulation 19 consultation. It will then be sent for examination in line with the timetable previously agreed. On the Martlet Shopping Centre, I'd refer members to the answer I gave to the question from Mr. Kirkwood and have nothing to add to that in this report. Finally, a brief comment on the Greater Brighton Economic Board. I attended my first meeting of the City Region Economic Board last week, where we commissioned work on a regional food plan and a relaunch of the UNESCO designation of the Living Coast. The board will also bring forward a project in the near future to look at the region's creative industries. As the work of GBEB may be unfamiliar to many members, I have asked officers to put a briefing together so we can all better understand its role and significance to us as a district. And I am happy to take questions, and I may even answer them. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor Eggleston. Right, we're going to take questions, and my emphasis they are questions, not statements, please. Councillor Cherry.
Thank you. Regarding the district plan, could you clear up the confusion as to whether the housing targets are currently mandatory or are they advisory?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Cherry, for your question. I think a lot of us have seen commentary in the press and in social media about the status of current housing targets across the country, and it's partly to do with the way statements are reported in the press and indeed statements made by the Secretary of State. I would refer first of all to what the Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State Baroness Scott of Bybrook said in the House of Lords in January this year in answer to a question from one of her colleagues, where she said, "My Lords, we remain committed to a plan-led system. National planning policy expects local planning authorities through their plans to make sufficient provision for housing and to identify the sites to deliver much needed homes to meet local needs. To get enough homes built in places where people and communities need them. A crucial first step is to plan for the right number of homes. That is why we remain committed to the 300,000 homes target and to retaining a clear starting point for calculating local housing needs." This local authority, I know it may surprise some members opposite to hear me say this, but this local authority has a good record on plan making. I know it's difficult, but we have a good record on it, and we know the jeopardy of not having a district plan. It's quite clear that whatever we read in the media about the targets being advisory, they are still, for all purposes, mandatory until such time as the law change and the national planning policy framework change. We take advice from very senior King's Counsel on this matter, and I would advise us to rely on that wise advice and not what we might see in social media or read in the press, and we press on to do all the work we need to do to deliver a plan that is safe and keeps the district council safe from speculative development.
Okay. Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, Chairman. Could the leader clarify the council's policy on 20-minute neighbourhoods, noting there's been some unfounded comments in social media that are associated with a charging policy for the council? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hicks, for your question. So I think what you're looking at, and again it is a commentary that runs in social media, is conflating 20-minute neighbourhoods with what is commonly called ULEZ, ultra-low emission zones. And the latter is something that comes as a result of trying to deal with the issue of clean air in cities. And the Transport Act 2000 sets out a charging regime that certain local authorities can apply to introduce. In order to do that, you have to be a charging authority, and Mid Sussex District Council isn't a charging authority, so even if it wanted to, and it doesn't, even if it wanted to introduce a scheme, it cannot by law do it. The 20-minute neighbourhood is a principle which all of us should embrace. It's a planning concept which says that when you step out of your door, you should be able to access some basic amenities: green space, play areas, a shop, a cafe, a community centre on large strategic sites, rather than, as has happened in the past, find that you are on an estate where there is nothing. It doesn't mean that town and village centres are less vibrant. You balance the two, but it does ensure that we can deliver to communities in particular areas infrastructure that they need that will support them in their daily lives.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. Question on, I'm very pleased that your statement about this council's having a good plan. My question is, and I'm going to keep to the spirit of this meeting today, I'm not naming other councils, but we do have threats on our boundaries, and those extra other councils that are dumping houses on our side of our boundaries, will you keep battling to make sure that we get the 106 money from those, if it is 106 money, but we get the money towards infrastructure that they're going to use in our towns, in Burgess Hill, Haywards Heath and elsewhere? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark, for your question. The short answer is yes. I mean, we are aware, and I think I know which council that you refer to, because it's on the other side of a road quite near where some of my friends live. But yes, we're fully aware that the borderland for some districts is seen as a prime target for development. Out of sight is out of mind, and rest assured that officers in planning will do all they can to ensure that we get infrastructure appropriate to support the impact on us.
Okay. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Leader. If I may ask you a question. I presume you may have doubtlessly seen the Haywards Heath Town Council plan for the future. It was on Monday's meeting at Haywards Heath Town Council. It's obviously on their agenda. But I just wanted to raise this evening is the fact it's a long document, so I appreciate you're not going to read all this evening, but within that document, it does set out policies that look to change ownership of Clare Hall. And it's also wants the town council to be the key custodians for the hall and sponsor for its use of the benefit of the town community. Well, it is a district asset. It always has been, Clare Hall. It's been used for the whole of the district. But continuing within their plan was also championing strategies of Clare Park and the sports pavilion, and also aspirations to take over the ownership and management of Victoria Park. Obviously, I need to make it quite clear that I voted against this plan, because I believe, these assets are wide assets for the benefit of the whole district. So my question is, please, if you may, does the leader agree with his cabinet member who has the responsibility for Clare Hall, who did actually endorse the transfer of these district assets? Thank you.
Didn't quite catch all the words of your question, but let's see if I answer it, and I'll let you come back if I haven't. I mean, I've come up through the parish ranks, and the towns of East Grinstead, Burgess Hill, and Haywards Heath meet on a regular basis to talk about their ambitions and aspirations. And town councils are not subsidiaries of the district council. They are their own corporate body, and they can have their own vision. I think it's incumbent upon all of us in this chamber to have very good, strong, collaborative working relationships with our town councils and with our parish councils. And I have no problem with town councils or parishes being ambitious for their communities, and we will work with them, and we will identify areas where it is not appropriate for us to move on certain of our policies. We will identify areas where it is very appropriate for district and parish or town councils to collaborate together. And there may be instances where the appropriate level for the delivery of something good in the community is best delivered within a town or parish council. And I think we have to enter into these discussions with our friends in the town councils and the parish councils in a positive and collaborative way, because the feedback I get, and I had this for 4 years when I was leader of the Burgess Hill Town Council, was very much an us and them. And one thing I want to do as leader of the district council, I'm sure my colleagues share the same hope, is that we break down that perception, whether it's a right perception or a wrong perception, we break it down, and the organisations can work together in a far more collaborative and cooperative way.
Thank you. Move to Councillor Eggleton.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Leader. Now, I listened very carefully to your response to Mr. Kirkwood concerning the Martless Shopping Centre. And while I appreciate that you have nothing more to add, I would hope that you might indulge me at this early stage of my district council career about whether or not you see any material change in the plans for the Martlet Shopping Centre, which would make it a residential development only. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eggleton. So I think really just have to follow the evidence, and the evidence is clearly set out in the Burgess Hill Townwide Strategy that was 2011, but the neighbourhood plan, the current district plan, the updated district plan, and some of the supporting evidence behind the current district plan, which is a very interesting study by Carter Jonas, which is a retail study looking at Haywards Heath, Burgess Hill, and East Grinstead. And all of that evidence shows that what you deliver to the town centre of Burgess Hill is a commercial retail development, number one. Now, the mix, the components of the commercial retail changes over time, but it's quite clear that the evidence is a commercial retail development. It would be contrary to plan policy to change that, and the updated district plan, which will take us out to 2039, clearly shows that for Burgess Hill we want a vibrant town centre which can cater for a wide range of our retail, leisure, hospitality and commercial needs. So I think I know where you might have seen that again, on social media maybe. Nature abhors a vacuum. We're waiting for some progress on the redevelopment, so people start to make up stories basically. But the evidence shows that what is needed for the town centre of Burgess Hill is a vibrant retail, leisure, hospitality estate, and that's what officers, myself, and our advisors are striving to deliver.
Right, Councillor Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you very much for all the answers, Leader. They've been very helpful. Just following up on Councillor Ellis's question, I'm not sure you did actually quite answer it. I completely appreciated the answer that you gave, which was that of strengthening collaboration between parish councils and the district council. But I think specifically the question was, bearing in mind you said that sometimes there are lines which it's not appropriate to work closer together, and other ones there are abilities to work more collaboratively. I think the question was specifically regarding ownership of Clare Hall and Clare Park, whether that was, in your view, whether that is something that does cross the lines, or whether that is something that you wouldn't want to engage more with in terms of the ownership, or are you saying that Clare Hall and Clare Park are in the mix for Haywards Heath Town Council to take forward? Thank you.
So the policy of the council is that ownership of Clare Hall and the Clare Hall site and Clare Park stays within the district council. But if you look at, for example, Clare Hall itself, that doesn't mean that Haywards Heath Town Council, as part of a scheme, cannot have an involvement in how that facility is delivered. We're a long way away from reaching a conclusion on what it would look like, let alone how it would be managed. And I think it would be inappropriate at this stage to close off discussion even before we've had those discussions. But the current position is that those assets remain owned by Mid-Sussex District Council.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Eggleston, for your report and answering the questions. So we move over to the next Cabinet Member, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Communities and Communications, Councillor Bennett.
Good evening, everybody. It's lovely to see you all. This evening, I'd like to give you a little flavour of the range of work that our excellent team of officers undertake in order to support all sections of our community right across Mid-Sussex. One thing that we can be confident of is that from the very young to the elderly and frail, we are here for our residents. First of all, and speaking as somebody who had a very bored 8-year-old this morning and ended up walking them down to the doctor's surgery to keep them amused to get a blood pressure reading done, I'm absolutely delighted that the play days are underway during the summer holidays. I understand that Councillor Hatton was at the event at Astra Park yesterday, and tomorrow we're looking forward to the play days moving to Hurst Pierpoint. You will find on your desks a flyer with the future dates right through August, and I would encourage you to publicise these in your communities if you could. I think there are things from DJing, which I believe Councillor Hatton very much enjoyed, through to craft making that I believe Councillor Hobbs is looking forward to taking part in tomorrow. So yeah, do share details of those when you can. On a more serious note, I'm very proud to be able to report on the work that the Council has undertaken to deliver disabled facilities grants in the last year. So over the last financial year, the Council has helped 115 residents continue to live in their homes, and we've spent 1.3 million making this happen. Homes can be adapted in all sorts of ways, from very seemingly minor modifications like a handrail at a front door that make all the difference for somebody being able to get in and out, right through to much more significant structural changes and things like stair lifts and accessible bathrooms. I'm really pleased that we're able to help people to continue to live independently. I think we've already talked about the roles and our relationship with towns and parishes this evening during the Leaders' Update. As you know, and this isn't actually true of all districts and boroughs in West Sussex, we have a network of town and parish councils, and they perform a vital role in supporting our residents, and they are also a vital partner of this council. I'm sure that many of you, I certainly do, attend your local parish and town councils as a ward member, both to update those councils on the work of Mid-Sussex, but also to keep your ear to the ground and pick up those issues early. I think that's a really valuable role, and it's something that I learn a lot from every time I attend Hurst Pierpoint Parish Council, and in the last council term, the councils that were in the Downland, what is now in the Downland Villages ward. As a new cabinet, though, we want to listen, and we do genuinely want to improve our understanding of what matters to our town and parish council colleagues. And I'm very pleased that following a meeting last week with MSDC officers and some town and parish clerks, a new way of working together has been outlined, initially starting off with a series of quarterly meetings, and the leader and I look forward to taking part in those meetings when they start to happen. Finally, I have communications in my portfolio. Communications is not just limited to how we as a council interact with the outside world. It's also about how we deal with each other and how we work with our team of officers who support us every day. I would like to encourage you to talk to me if you've got ideas or thoughts about what's working and what can be improved. My door is open, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you with those ideas. Thank you, and I'm very happy to take any questions.
Okay, first question then from Councillor Marsh.
Thank you, Chairman. I welcome this. Well done. For once, my village has been included, so I'm quite pleased about that. Seriously, question though is, in light of what you've just said about talking to our town and parishes, have you communicated this to the parish clerk in Balcombe and elsewhere? Because it's all very well, and luckily in here I've only got one of these in my ward, but there's no point us requiring the members of the public to come onto our website and have a look. We've got to tell them, i.e. the parishes and towns who've got their own websites, oi, have a look at this, because I think it'd be quite good if you could, and secure a link to this, because I think this will go down quite well. So do keep it up. I will hold you to account, so do keep it up. Thank you.
Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Councillor Marsh. My understanding is that we have certainly communicated these events through our social media channels. Actually, in conversations I've had with my parish clerk, one of the challenges they've had with play days in previous years is not getting enough advance notice of when they're happening. So I think your question's absolutely relevant and good, and I will get you a written answer on that. Thank you.
You don't need to give a written answer, just tell them.
Thank you.
Right. Councillor Whitaker.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for the report, Councillor Bennett. The leader's already touched on it about communications with the parishes, and you have as well, so well done with that. My question is, last week there was a quarterly meeting of the three towns, East Grinstead, Haywards Heath and Burgess Hill Town Councils, former representatives. It was chaired by Councillor Lucraft. It was a very robust meeting, as they always are, but always also very good. And I just wondered if you have had any communications with any feedback from that meeting, because in terms of communications and some other substantive commercial points, there are some issues, I think, that you need to be aware of.
Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Councillor Whitaker. The short answer is yes, I'm aware of that the meeting took place, the nature of the conversations that happened, and also the letter that the Association of Town Councils have written to the Council, and I'm in active conversations with senior officers about that letter.
Right. See no more questions? Oh, Janice.
Just to reassure Councillor Marsh, Burgess Hill Town Council knew about the play days ages ago. Just to confirm, we certainly knew about the play days. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, but we're not a Liberal Democratic parish council. We are a council of independents, and we haven't been told. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Zeidler.
Yes, thank you. Oh, thank you. Just a brief comment. Sorry, a brief comment. I would again endorse. I think this is an excellent initiative. Just looking at the scheduling for future years, it might be helpful rather than progressing north through the month and a half. It might be helpful if they were moved around so that people could come back and find something maybe at the beginning and at the end of the month that's local to them. At the moment, you really probably get one or two chances, particularly if you're deep in the deep southwest of the district, as we are, to probably find that you've only got one chance, whereas you might get two if it was cycled. Thank you.
Councillor Bennett.
Yes, I agree. I think this week's a great week if you live in Sussex and Hurstpierpoint, and less so by the 4th week of August.
I see no more questions on my screen. Right, thank you, Councillor Bennett, for your report and the answers to the questions. And I'll move on to the next Cabinet Member for Finance, Revenues and Benefits, Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Chairman. This administration is committed to providing Haywards Heath with a multifunctional, cultural and community space with facilities for live performance at Clare Hall. Over recent weeks, we have been considering the best way forward to provide a sustainable, long-term solution. Members will be aware that officers are investigating options, work which will conclude shortly. This administration is committed to openness and community involvement. We propose to share the outcome of this work with councillors and the public at events at Clare Hall in the late summer, before then bringing formal recommendations to members. A long-term financially viable solution for the site, which will benefit future generations, may, of course, take time to achieve. The Clare Hall building could, in the meantime, continue to be used by the NHS, or, if an economically viable scheme can be found, be reopened as an interim theatre and community venue. This report is the outline for an exciting major project that could provide an asset for Haywards Heath for decades to come. Consultant reports have found Haywards Heath to be welcoming of cultural entertainment. I hope the Council will support this approach, and I look forward to bringing further details to the Chamber in the coming months. Thank you.
Any questions to Councillor Cook? Councillor Marsh.
Yeah, thank you. I'm slightly confused with the Cabinet members' update. It seems contrary to what you told the member of the public who asked the question. You're seeking to bring it forward as a cultural, but in the meantime, what's happening to the NHS? Because you said to him, well, we're not going to split, we're not going to terminate that meeting, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. But you just contradicted yourself by saying, oh yeah, we welcome the NHS, but we want to do this. So you can't have it both ways, I'm afraid. You either support the NHS in Clare Hall and continue down the line of finding somewhere, or do you break the NHS out of there and continue with what you want to just say? Because you just said two different things in this chamber within about an hour. So I'm sorry, you may grin at me, but you did. Yeah, I can hear what you're saying, but I'm looking at the Cabinet member. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Marsh, have you got the question?
Can you clarify exactly what she said, Chairman? Because we've had two questions put by myself and the member of the public, and we had two different answers. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Cook.
Thank you. There is a possibility of running the NHS as an interim until we've decided what to do. We're not going to walk in and say, out you go. We have a time frame which we are working on. So I don't see the problem in having the NHS for a few months, however long, and when that contract is satisfied and we have something else in place, we can move on to have a cultural site at Clare Hall. It's not either or, we can have one followed by the other. Thank you.
Chairman, can I come back, please?
Not really, thank you.
Okay. Question then.
Councillor Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you very much for the report, Cabinet Member. Perhaps one of the issues was in the discussion with or the answer to the public question earlier, I think you said that you were looking at bringing forward a mixed use for Clare Hall. In your answer just now, you just referred to a multifunctional facility. Obviously, they're not mutually exclusive, so could you just confirm you do expect a mixed use for the Clare Hall site, and you are indeed just looking at interim solutions whilst we prepare a brief for the wider mixed use site? Thank you.
Councillor Cook.
As I said, we are looking at various options. Nothing is set yet, but we hope to achieve a multifunctional cultural centre with hopefully space for performing arts and community space. That's not going to happen overnight. So we are looking at either filling, we will obviously have, if we decide straight away, there will be a void period of planning and designing and what have you. So we need to have something in between. That can be NHS, that can be a more simple refurbishment and open it up as a cultural venue. Multi-purpose and, what did you say? Multi-purpose and... Mixed use and...
So that's not, I thought that would be like more residential, cultural, commercial.
We're looking at all options. Yeah, I thought you were referring to what kind of entertainment would be available, but we're looking at all options. You know, it would be nice to have theatre, cinema, exhibition space, all sorts, but there's various options of what we can have and various options of how we can finance it. You will soon be updated on more concrete plans.
Right, thank you. Councillor Cook. Councillor Peacock.
Thank you, Chairman. Building on that work that's obviously starting and you're working through the various options, are we looking at a new building, knocking down Clare Hall, or is it what could be a lot of money put into an old building that some would argue we should start from scratch on? What are you looking at? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
We're still considering the options. I will be able to give you more information shortly. But all options are open. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cook, for your report and answering the questions. It's not been easy. It's a difficult problem, this Clare Hall, and it's something that's going to rumble on. Okay, I now move to Cabinet Member for Leisure and Customer Services, Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, Chair. Earlier this month, the Cabinet approved the next stage in the delivery of the Centre for Outdoor Sport, and officers are now inviting tenders for the construction of the centre via the leisure procurement framework. Plans are quite widespread in terms of the sports that are supported there in the very first phase. Football and football pitches of all sizes and for all ages. Regulation 22 rugby compliant artificial turf pitch and artificial wickets and cricket, for example. Plans also, of course, include parking infrastructure, changing rooms, a clubhouse, and pitchside viewing access and viewing areas with an expected delivery for this project in the summer of 2024. Mid Sussex District Council will obviously continue to work with the many sports clubs in the area and national governing bodies to develop our offer both here and across the whole of Mid Sussex. Whilst the Centre for Outdoor Sport is going to be the largest project on our horizon, it is but just one part of the investment in sports provision that we will make across the whole of Mid Sussex. Within the Burgess Hill area, for example, we'll see the development of Brookley, as we all know, and that will see additional sports facilities, both provided in the general development, but also of the new Beadlands Academy, which will be opening in 2025 and has pitches that will be available and sports facilities available for public use. In East Grinstead, we will start work shortly on the refurbishments of the tennis courts at Mount Loddy. This work particularly is in conjunction with the Lawn Tennis Association, and it will breathe new life into what is quite a tired park, and there, like a number of our courts, will be available to be booked online. Back to Burgess Hill, and I'm pleased to confirm that the officers have negotiated the summer opening of the outdoor Lido pool at the Triangle Leisure Centre. And this is very much obviously against the backdrop of substantial cost increases that everybody is suffering today. So we thank Places Leisure for recognising the importance of this particular asset to the community in what is obviously a difficult trading period. I'm pleased to report that in another area of my portfolio, that we've had a number of lease renewals, and specifically at the Orchard Shopping Centre in Hayward Heath, where we actually only have one empty unit. As always, there remain a number of ongoing lease negotiations, but a strong commercial offer and is a recognition, and very much a recognition that Mid Sussex really is a place where retailers want to do business. I have no doubt that you will have seen a small refresh on the Mid Sussex District Council website, and this is very much focusing on accessibility and ensuring that Mid Sussex District Council is fully web content accessibility compliant, following an update to the guidelines in this area. It's an industry standard across all sectors, and it means the website is tested against 4 principles of accessibility for people with disabilities. Finally, we've made a bid for £250,000 for funding from West Sussex County Council's Cost of Living Fund for food and white goods vouchers. This will help both low-income households and those moving from temporary accommodation into more permanent accommodation and who are needing assistance. We expect to hear about that application soon. I welcome any questions on my portfolio. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Whittaker.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Hobbs, for a report. Thank you for the investment in East Grinstead. The recent Section 106 awards of £224,000 to 4 district private sports clubs was very welcome, very recently, so thank you for that. However, at last week's East Grinstead Sports Council meeting, which meet quarterly, and I hope you can attend one of those sessions at the next one, which was also attended by Councillor Gibson in his capacity, there was strong criticism of the lack of investment in Mid-Sussex District Council owned pitches, particularly football and sports pitches, particularly at East Court, Imberhorn Recreation Ground and King's Field, particularly in terms of drainage and just general adequacy of the playing surfaces, given the amount of bookings that they get. So my question is, can you please, in your new capacity, ahead of the budget discussions, which starts probably in fairly soon, review this ahead of your discussions with your colleagues? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. And yes, it's very much in our mind that we wish to use developer contributions, for example, to improve our playing pitch portfolio. We have a paper coming to Cabinet in September that will outline proposals for a number of options and way forward in which we intend to invest in these facilities.
Councillor Prescott.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very pleased to hear the continuing investment in playing fields, but one thing I didn't hear was an update on the Finch's Field in Pease Pottage and Han Cross. I understand, sort of living in the ward, that there's been a planned redevelopment there for nearly 2 years. I understand it's fully funded, full local consultation's been completed, but I hear nothing, nor do the local residents who are putting up with a lot of new development in the area, and we'd very much like an update.
Thank you very much for your question. I don't have the details specifically, but I know that Finch's Field is one of the 6 parks that have been through the master planning process with the council. The investment, I do believe, is secured, and a plan will be coming forward to develop that park, I think in this or next financial year, but I'll give you a written answer to that question specifically.
Okay, and Councillor Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Cabinet Member, Councillor Hobbs, for the update, and indeed best wishes to the portfolio as with all Cabinet members and the leader this evening. Thank you for touching there about the Parks Investment Programme, which, as you know, is a flagship programme of this council, and of which a lot of consultations have already been undertaken. And despite significant financial challenges, a lot of money has been set aside for delivery of many new projects to our existing parks, including Mount Noddy, which you've already referenced with the LTA funding, and Victoria Park. Now, the Parks Engagement Hub, which we're encouraged to follow activity, etc., hasn't been updated for any park since March, except the Mount Noddy LTA funding. The last administration did put the budgets aside for this financial year, and as you know, some of those parks are phased in terms of the funding for those. So it'd be really helpful if you could give an update as to, it sounds like you're saying that they're all on track, but would you be able to give any assurance as to when we will see spades in the ground for any of the 6 parks that we have planned, and at the very least, confirmation that they will be implemented as forecast for this financial year? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Belsey. I don't have the answer as to when specifically those projects will be delivered, but I will get you a written answer, and we'll make sure that all the councillors are made aware, particularly those who have the parks in their areas who are in the master planning process. Thank you.
Councillor Marsh.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Hobbs. I too have had your portfolio for 4 years, so I know how difficult it is. I'm slightly disappointed that you would mention next year. I was the ward councillor for 20 years in Pease Pottage, and we were promised years and years and years ago that Finch's Field was going to be one of the first, if not the first. And the funding's been in place for nearly 3 years for that. Obviously, we had COVID, and I appreciate it, and we all wanted to put the whole master plan together so all the 6 parts could go forward, economies of scale. But I was assured in the previous administration that this was one of the first, if not the first, to go ahead in this year, because there was a significant amount of money sitting in the bank, and the residents of Parish Council that I represent, Slutham as well, need to know when, because I've got a council meeting on tomorrow, and I need to tell them, well, you may get it this year, you may get it next year, you may not ever get it, you're going to spend the money somewhere else. I really do not hope that's the case, because I am slightly disappointed. Please give me a written answer. Can you do it within 24 hours, if it's at all possible, please? Because I need to be able to go to the Parish Council saying, yes, it's going to go ahead in this financial year, because that's what we were assured. As soon as the election was out of the way, spades were going in the ground. And we're 2 months past that stage now, and not a lot's happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marsh. I think one of the things that this administration will hopefully deliver is some pace in the projects that are both outlined as being in plan already, and in delivering projects that are locked where there is a level of investment but I haven't been able to deliver a full project, for example, in a park where there may be some money available but not a full refurb. We will get you an answer before your meeting tomorrow.
Appreciate it.
And yes, absolutely. So delivering against that pace, we will have the answer for you. And as I say, it's our intention that we deliver things at pace. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick question for Councillor Hobbs. The project on, well, not project, we had green bins, which there was, I think, 1,000 requests for green bins, waste bins. And I just wondered if you could give me an update how we're getting on with that project to bring that up for the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. You will be aware that the council agreed in its budget the investment in a new vehicle and a new crew to be able to expand the green bin service. And when the budget was agreed, the officers went out to work with our contractor to secure the vehicle. And that's been the biggest challenge because of the lead time in buying new refuse vehicles. That vehicle has been on order for that period, and the officers are telling me they are confident that service will be delivered from the autumn. I think it would be fair to say. Now, the process that currently is going on is that there's a waiting list for people who have green bins, and there has been some capacity created as people have left the service. So at the moment, the team are working down through the list of those people who are currently waiting for a green bin to fill in those gaps where there is currently small pockets of capacity. And then the new vehicle coming on board, as soon as the date is confirmed and the vehicle is crewed, then there will be an acceleration of the promotion of green bins.
Thank you. And the last question, Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chairman. You touched upon Burgess Lido at the Triangle. A lot of residents were really surprised because we had such good weather in June that the Lido wasn't ready to be opened. You touched upon costs. Was it a case it was completely cost prohibitive to open it, or was it kind of quite marginal about the cost versus public benefit? Of course, not everyone has a lot of money to go on holiday or to travel quite far, so the Lido is quite convenient and it's a great facility. So also, can the council look at maybe opening it earlier next year, if possible, if finances allow? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman, for your question. I think, as we all know, we're all suffering in our own homes with gas and electricity bills that have gone through the roof. And the operation of an outdoor leisure pool is no different in terms of the costs that places will have incurred in heating water in an outdoor environment, as well as, of course, the cost of staffing the pool and so on. So, yes, we'll absolutely make note that the pool will be, we'll try and get the pool open. We'll work places to try and get the pool open as soon as we can, and as early as we can in the season next year. But I think the important thing that we should recognise is that we've achieves getting it open for the busy summer period. So we'll definitely look forward to what more we can do for next year. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Councillor Hobbs, for your report and for your answers to the questions. And finally, to the Cabinet Member for Sustainable Economy and Housing, Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Chairman. And good evening, councillors. Nice to see so many of the faces from last time, but even nicer to see some new faces in amongst us. I was pleased to see that the lunchtime training session on carbon literacy last week was well attended. It was a good introduction to the sources of carbon emissions and the challenges in achieving our net zero targets. The session was recorded, and I would encourage councillors who are unable to join the session live to view the recording. The Council is seeking to achieve bronze standard in carbon literacy as part of the work on the sustainable economy. And accreditation is based on our people as much as our processes, so this is an objective which all councillors, all of us, can contribute to personally by following the training. I had an opportunity to hear about the net zero plans of other West Sussex councils at my first meeting of the West Sussex Climate Change Board 2 weeks ago. Several councils described plans for nature recovery and wildlife corridors alongside decarbonisation of vehicle fleets and their estate. Other work includes regenerative agriculture and the opportunity for the farming community to contribute to carbon sequestration. This board meets quarterly, and it will be an important opportunity to build partnerships. The Council is currently supporting a number of online and in-person programmes to educate and support businesses. Let's Go Net Zero promotes net zero as a business opportunity. Grow Digital West Sussex explains how businesses can use digital technologies. I don't think it goes as far as artificial intelligence, but who knows. And Digital Futures West Sussex encourages individuals to use their digital skills and knowledge within the West Sussex economy as an alternative to out-commuting. So it's matching the skills to employers' needs. And details of all of these programmes are available on the summer edition of the quarterly Business Bulletin newsletter. It's just been published, and there's a link to it on MIS issued today, MIS 28. Finally, on the sustainable economy side, the Council is using a grant from the Coast Capital LEP to fund a feasibility study into community energy hubs. The study is being undertaken by Ricardo, that's the consultant that worked on our sustainable economy strategy, and is also advising us on net zero. And the study is looking at locations in the south of the district, and that work's due to report in September. Look forward to that. On housing, the Council is continuing to increase its supply of temporary accommodation to address homelessness and to provide a breathing space while permanent arrangements are identified. And planning permission was recently granted for a property in Cookfield that will provide 5 units in due course. Increasing our stock of temporary accommodation makes good social and financial sense, as it reduces the need to use bed and breakfast accommodation. And bed and breakfast is a poor solution for families, as well as a burden for the revenue budget. We currently have 19 households in bed and breakfast, and while that's a historically low figure for the time that I've been a member of this council, we need to anticipate that the cost of living crisis could see an increase in that figure. Figures for housing completions in the district published on the Department for Levelling Up Housing and Communities website show that just over 1,400 new homes were completed in the 12 months to October 22. 398 of these were affordable, and those are truly outstanding results. The district exceeded its target for the period by 531 homes. I'm surprised we didn't get a mention in Mr. Gove's speech on the 24th. If there was a league table for home building, Mid-Sussex would be 35th out of 296 authorities, ahead of councils like Hackney, Wandsworth, Maidstone and Medway. Now, if you listened to the District Planning Committee a couple of weeks ago, You'll have heard officers say that a government grant scheme called the New Homes Bonus is a material planning consideration. This is a grant scheme that the government pays the council for every new home completed. The good news is that the district is to receive over £2 million from this scheme based on those housing completion figures. Thank you, and I'll take questions.
Councillor Hatton.
Thank you. Thank you for your report, and I will concur that the programme that we had delivered to us for an hour last week about the net zero was very, very interesting. I would commend it to everybody to look at the recording if they weren't able to see it on the day. It was only an hour and I wasn't able to ask the question then that I wanted to, so I'll ask it now really. With regard to education, I know West Sussex are responsible for that, but I would like to think that maybe the District Council could do some extra stuff, possibly for encouraging youngsters to get involved, and I wonder if there are any ideas in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hatton. Thank you for the support for the training. I myself have done 2 days' worth of that training as a West Sussex County Councillor, and it is very insightful, and it's important to think about the way that we can make personal contribution. As to regard to encouraging the younger generation to think this through, I think, for example, the Mid-Sussex Science Week, which we've just completed this year's round of it, which is encouraging students to take up STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, is the right sort of forum, and it's the right sort of challenges to set within that type of activity. And I'll be looking at that for next year's event in order to see what can be identified as the specific challenges within that, which are going to promote them to thinking about net zero challenges and the related areas. Thank you.
Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. From memory, I don't think we actually had any figure for New Homes Bonus in the budget for last year, so it's always welcome to hear of additional funds being found in the back pocket. Can the Cabinet member tell me, has it been agreed what this additional money will be spent on yet, please?
Thank you, Councillor Phillips, for the question. The New Homes Bonus, and I'll read from the, it's given to local authorities, matched to the development. And the government expects local councillors to work closely with their communities, in particular the neighbourhoods most affected by housing growth, to understand their priorities for investment and to communicate how the money will be spent and the benefits it will bring. Now, I think this is important, and you've heard already the emphasis which this new administration is placing on talking to towns and parishes about their needs, and you've heard within the district plan that we're looking at the infrastructure which is needed more and more in order to make the developments which we ask our communities to take more sustainable. And that's also a feature of the ongoing debate about the future of the infrastructure levy and the way that that infrastructure will be delivered. The answer to the specific question is no, that it hasn't been thought through by the Cabinet. The Cabinet's taken no decisions yet on how to use that money, but it will be taken within that framework. And you are correct that, quite correctly, this Council, because there was no commitment to the government when the budget was being put together last year, that this money was not included in balancing the budget. So it is, in that respect, a windfall. Thank you.
Right. Councillor Marsh.
Chairman, can I thank Councillor Gibson for his prompt, you never thought you'd hear that from me, would you? Your prompt answer to the series of emails regarding the mould in the house up in East Grinstead, because it was a particularly appalling house. Your predecessor, Councillor Cromley, she said she wanted to meet up with the RSLs to have a meeting so that they can understand their responsibilities. Because across the whole of the district, we have lots of our social housing, unfortunately, doesn't meet the standards that you would expect people to live in. So can you please maintain that commitment that you will speak and get the RSLs in? But please, thank you for responding so quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor March. I think there's nothing more important than ensuring that our residents have habitable property. And I think that when looking at the photos which I saw of that particular property, which I was grateful that that was able to be provided, then I do agree that I think that we have to work with the housing associations. It's not a proper. We have to work with the housing associations in order to understand really what challenges they are facing and how many of these issues are around. It's something which I was involved with in a much smaller capacity in terms of the area within Crawley Down and East and Turner's Hill that I was looking at previously. And I did find very good working relationships with some of the housing associations, less so with others. And I think there's a whole issue about the way that they look at maintenance. And yes, absolutely, it's one of the things that I've asked the officers to put in place, that we do meet and we do discuss that thing with them. So I thank Councillor March very much for that question. Thank you.
Councillor Whitaker.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Gibson. One of the quirks of your portfolio is that you have responsibility for housing but not for planning. So I know that the leader, I believe now, is responsible for planning. But you touched, you led me in nicely with your comment about infrastructure and housing delivery. You will be aware, being an East Grinstead Town Councillor, as well as Worth, that there are 2 allocated sites in the site allocation DPD that are coming very hotly through the planning system for housing delivery, targeted housing delivery. My question, please, is with infrastructure delivery, can you please confirm that this District Council is still in active talks with Surrey County Council and West Sussex County Council to find a solution to the traffic problems in the north of East Grinstead and the Felbridge area, please?
Thank you, Councillor Whitaker. Glancing behind me, I'm told that the answer to that is yes. I think, as you're well aware, as County Councillor, that I'm well aware of the position which Surrey County Council is taking on those junctions. I would admit that in the time that I've been taking up this portfolio, I have not delved too deeply into what this councillor is playing within that, but I will now do so.
And finally, a question from Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chairman. My ears pricked up when you mentioned the new homes bonus and community infrastructure and asking what communities need. We've heard a lot about Clare Hall this evening, but let's not forget Burgess Hill. We've got a huge gap in our town centre where we had the Martlets Hall, and the town council have been struggling to fund a replacement building. So would the new homes bonus would a new venue for Burgess Hill, like the Beehive, would that be eligible for new homes bonus funding, perhaps? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Chapman. As I said earlier, there has been no decisions made as to how the money might be spent. Thank you.
Okay, right, thank you, Councillor Gibson, for your report and answering the questions. And finally, we go to item 12 on the agenda, questions pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 10.2. I've been given notice of a question from Councillor Brown. Is the question tabled? Right, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is about biodiversity net gain, which has been the subject of discussions and debate at the recent planning and district planning committees. I prefer to talk about it as off-site mitigation of biodiversity loss due to development, but biodiversity net gain comes off is easier to put your tongue around. Anyway, my question is about recent planning committee decisions have been determined with biodiversity net gain mitigation either not yet secured or secured at an off-site location outside the boundary of both Mid-Sussex District and Mid-Sussex Planning Authority. And do you think that most members of this council and members of the public would prefer biodiversity net gain mitigation to be secured both as close as possible to the development receiving the grant of planning permission and within this local authority? And if I may go on to my second question, can council prepare a list of sites ready and willing to receive biodiversity mitigation and to compensate for the loss of biodiversity on development sites? Thank you.
Right. Councillor Eggleston.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Brown, for your question. Technically, Councillor Gibson could have taken it with responsibility for net zero, but I won the arm wrestle. In answer to question one, the simple answer is yes. That would always be ours, Natural England, and the government's preference. Although the government metric for calculating BNG allows for off-site delivery, there's a spatial risk multiplier which penalises proposals where off-site habitat is located at a distance from the impact site. I'd also refer you to section 9 in the draft district plan, especially policies DPN 1 and DPN 2, which set out the council's position on BNG. With respect to strategic sites in the district, the policies in the plan expect these to exceed the BNGs set out in the Environment Act 2021 with a 20% net gain as opposed to the 10% that the Act requires. On your second question, the Council will be making a call for sites which owners wish to offer up as being suitable for BNG mitigation in the near future. The Council will also be considering if any land in its ownership could be identified for off-site BNG.
Right, thank you. Councillor Brown, do you have a supplementary?
Not really, but I'd just like to say I'm grateful for the answer and look forward to this call for BNG sites. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that finishes item 12, so it only leaves me to close the meeting at 8:45, and if you can remain in your places until the live stream has concluded.
Thank you, members.
Well done.